All right. Well, welcome to the first episode / introduction, if you will, for this, little fun venture that we're going to go on. We are the Bearded Game Masters, otherwise known as BGM. I am your eloquent host here. My name is Ron. I am also here with Mike.
Hello.
And Eric as well.
Hello.
And I guess, the game plan for this is, we're going to sit down here and we're going to give you a little insight on who we are, what we're going for on this one. And kind of just, let it go. See what happens. Yeah, so this is probably going to be a little awkward at moments, But hey, we've got this. We're, all adults. So we're good. So, anyway. I think. So, who wants to kick this off here? Who wants to be, let's start with Eric here. Let's give a little insight here. Like, what would you be your I guess what would be like one of your all-time favorites here? And we're going into any market. It can be, FPSs, RTSs, RPGs, linear, games, whatever.
Well, I think I would like to kick it off a little old school with a favorite from my childhood, going back to the N64. I'm going to say Legends of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Oh my God.
One of my favorite all-time games. I certainly remember, a lot of hours spent probably faking sick, staying home from school, and just diving into as many temples as I could that day.
Oh my God, that water temple. I hate the water temple.
Oh my gosh. Just getting that blue tunic was destroying, and then to actually have to go through that whole experience,
I know for me personally, when I play the game again, as soon as I get to the water temple, I'm like, okay, I beat the game. I'm done. I'm going home.
Yeah, actually, a little side note about that one. That was released re-released actually on the 3DS, and I'm pretty sure they actually dumbed down the water temple when they released it on handheld, because it was I remember hitting a spot on there where if you didn't use the keys in a certain way, you could screw yourself, which I did multiple times in a row because I'm an idiot. So. Still, nonetheless, I think that's a really good one to pick. That is a lot of people's favorites. That's definitely one of mine. So, kudos to you on that one, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So, how about yourself, Mike? What do you got there?
I had to think about it for a while, and I had to find a game where I played a ton of hours on, and it came down between two, and I eventually had to settle for Star Wars TIE Fighter.
Okay. Now why?
That was living the dream. Being a kid growing up, I think I was maybe 13 playing it actually by the time I had a PC that could run it. Just being able to play it, an Imperial and in the Star Wars universe, which was kind of, at the time you couldn't do that. And Summer Vacations, man, I just lost it in that game. I played it nonstop, and just being able to do, before then, all my flight sim games were kind of like rail shooters, or arcade style rail shooters. But this is something where you can fly anywhere you want. You can manage the ship's resources, and it was just a lot of fun. The storyline was great, and it was a tough choice, but that's the one I'm gonna have to pick. I loved it. Still do.
Not fair enough. I mean, I know everybody's got at least that one Star Wars game that resonates with them. But I mean, for myself, if I had to pick one that really stuck with me, man, that's actually, I'm not gonna lie, that's a little hard because there's a lot of really good stuff that came out. But I mean, I'm gonna cop out on this one, and I'm gonna give the old tired and true, the one that everybody picks, that everybody really likes. I'd have to say Final Fantasy VII for me. I played that one so much back in the day when that one came out that like I remember my parents going out and buying other games for me to play because they were sick of seeing me play that one over and over as much as I did. I mean, the amount of hours that I poured into that one growing up is crazy. And also, to be fair, I think that's one of the few titles that like I've bought multiple times over and over on, countless consoles. As the new ones come out and they've released it, take the PS4, they have it on that one. I picked it up on that just because, I had to. I needed to have it again, and on Steam I have it. I mean, hell, I still have the original, PS1 disc sitting in my collection over here. So that definitely would have to be one of mine.
I think it's actually funny that you say that, like, that it's that one that everybody always says and everyone always calls their favorite. But I think that really speaks to just how great that game, and not just that game, but even that franchise was. Like, me personally, I never played 7. I was an Final Fantasy 8 player.
Oh, wow.
But when you ask anybody, like, Final Fantasy 7, like, everybody loves that game. And I think that just goes to show how good of a job like they did with what they had back then,
Oh God, yes, and I feel pity for them now because there's a lot of people, and myself included, that are like waiting for the remake to come out, and like, oh my God, you have a lot of people that you really don't want to disappoint. But I mean, to be fair, even if it's bad, I'm going to get it just because it is Final Fantasy VII.
I guess I'm gonna have to be the dissenting voice here because I always thought 6 was better than 7.
Oh, 6 is okay. Listen,
yeah.
All right. So 6 is really good.
Yeah,
I think 6 has like an amazing story, and it has a huge cast of characters. And just in case if anyone doesn't know, 6 in the U.S. was 3. Right. So it was in Japan. It was 6, but for us in the States here, it was number 3. Came out on the SNES. I want to say it was early 90s, anywhere from like 93 to 95. I'd be lying if I could remember. But like that one had an amazing story, huge cast of characters, like I said. And to be fair, I actually think that's one of the only that I can think of Final Fantasy series games where the villain actually completed what he wanted to do. Like, right. Kefka wanted to destroy the world, and he actually did that, which, it's a really cool thing. I don't know, though, I don't want to say that got out to as much people as what 7 did, but...
Well, 7 sold the PS1.
It definitely helped, yeah.
Right.
Sort of the up-and-coming system at the time.
And that was the thing, like, for me, when I saw the PS1 at, like, Toys R Us and at Sears, the demo machines, I actually I actually didn't care for it at all because I thought... because at the time I saw like PC graphics and I saw all the texture warping and such on the PS1. I'm like,
wow, that's not fair.
I like that. That to me was like that was a turnoff. Even for me, the N64 looked better, even though it was more solid colors. It wasn't that much in textures. It looked like it handled textures better than the PS1. That's just with me. But by that time, I was switching over to like more PC gaming.
You became part of the master race.
I still am the master race.
Well, still, nonetheless, I mean, comparing that is definitely, it's, yeah, I get what you're what you're saying there.
I think at the time I thought Sprites still could have done some more in terms of games. For me personally, I thought the N64, the Saturn, and the PS1 was just too soon for 3Ds. And to me, it was almost like a benchmark. Now, when you got the PS2, the GameCube, and the Dreamcast, that was different. Now you had really good.
It had the hardware that could back it up. Yeah.
Now you did. The first one, everyone was trying to figure out how do you do controls. Nintendo came out with the thumbstick. And
on the Trident controller, yeah,
on the Batman controller, and Sony had to go around and say, you know what, we're going to up it. We're going to give you 2 of them.
What's funny that you mentioned that actually is I remember, like the first joystick I ever used was on the the N64, and I remember sitting down and playing. I think I might have been GoldenEye with it, and seeing it and trying it out. And I remember saying to myself, like, what the hell? Who's going to use this? This makes no sense.
Right.
And then, boy, was I wrong.
Well, can you imagine, like, back then, there was you think of, like, the Mega Man RPG game that came out for the PS1 and I think also for
Mega Man Legends.
The Legends game. It wasn't made for the thumbstick, so you had to use the L and R buttons to turn around.
Yeah.
Right.
That was the course that the companies were going to make until Nintendo came and say, "Hey, look, here's a thumbstick. We're going to go back to it. Basically, they stuck an Atari controller on a Nintendo controller and say, run with it," and they did.
Yeah, and then look where we're at now.
Yeah. Now we're on the Steam controller, which has which has a touchpad on it, essentially.
Yeah, but now if we're going over some of our own personal favorites that we enjoyed playing with by ourselves. We had the Star Wars, we had Zelda, we had Final Fantasy. Those are really some single player games here, something that you would just enjoy by yourself. So then I guess I'd have to ask is what about multiplayer ones? Like what's something that you sat down with your friends and like really put the hours in and just had an absolute blast with be it couch co-op or local versus whatever. So let's Mike, what about you? Like what would be something that really stuck out to you in that in that setup?
I mean, well, for me, I mostly am the single player guy. I mean, I think we're all going to end up saying World of Warcraft. So let's just say something other than World of Warcraft.
Okay, something other than an MMO.
Something an MMO, and I have to go back to Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight on gaming on the Internet Gaming Zone, and even AVP 2000, Alien vs Predator 2000. I sunk so many hours back in the dial-up connection days, where you can only have like three other people join in, and just have a blast before the duck and cover shooters became more of the norm. I spent a lot of time on that. I didn't spend that much time what do you expect, like with Quake 3 and Unreal 2004. And as for consoles, I remember playing a lot of battle matches with Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. When my nephew would come up, we would always do the battle matches. And nothing is greater on the battle matches than to do the feather thing and be out of bounds and they can't touch you. I mean, and there's no clock or anything. This was the first the Mario Kart game. You could just sit there and be a troll, and they can't touch you until you get back into the arena. So that was always fun.
Oh, I remember those days of playing the original Mario Kart with my little brother, mm-hmm. and we would just go hours, in the versus mode on that one. Mm-hmm. So I completely understand where you're coming from there.
Right.
That was definitely a great title. That was a great title.
Yes. How about you, Du?
So, I mean, I have a lot of... I didn't really find PC gaming until I was more like 17, 18 years old. And of course, the first game I played was World of Warcraft. So, yeah, since we're not saying World of Warcraft, I have a lot of different games that I remember with different groups. But I think, one of my absolute favorites was Super Smash Brothers for the N64. Playing that with a bunch of buddies back in like middle school. We'd all get together and get all jacked up on Monster had just come out, I believe, and just spend hours upon hours playing different matches. Favorite character by far, Princess Zelda, because she turned into Sheik, and there was no actually playing Princess Zelda in that game. You played Sheik.
Yep, as soon as the match starts, transform into her and then just house.
Yes. What was it, that one little like air kick she did that would send people flying up and then you could combo with her regular melee punches? Yeah, I was a hack that way.
I used to have a friend that him and I would sit down and play that game, for countless hours, and he got really good with Ness. And I remember that I could not beat him. And it wasn't that he was like, he let me try this again. It wasn't that he like could beat my ass with Ness all the time, but every time I would knock him out, he would somehow manage to get himself back on the platform. And I just could never KO him like that.
Ness and Kirby were so evil for that.
Yep, I remember that. I remember Kirby on that one.
Oh my gosh, you could jump like 17 times. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. And like I guess for me, I'd have to stick with, the N64 platform on this one, but I how do I word this? I don't have one. I have actually two on this one. And for two for different reasons. One, the first one's GoldenEye, because when that one came out, I can't think of anybody like in our age bracket, or even hell, I think like in a grade above me and below me, that didn't play the hell out of that game when that one came out. I remember that was, like I said, like the first time I sat down and like used a joystick controller and was just like, what is this thing? I don't understand how this is going to be useful in the future. And then I also remember everyone running around as Oddjob, because if you would have a game where you didn't either say everybody played Oddjob or nobody plays him, you would get that one person that would run around as him and you couldn't kill him because he was just right below your marker there.
Shoot over his head every single
time. So there's that one, just because there was a lot of fun with that one. But I actually have to say, for me though, outside of that one, it would have to be WCW versus NWO.
Oh wow!
For the N64. I know, because that's not really like the style of game that like I'd go for like now. But back then, I remember, oh my god, I remember being up until like 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning with 3 friends from school, and we would just be playing that and just laughing because the intros were so ridiculous, and like it was our version of Smash before Smash had actually come out. That's the best way I could describe it for you.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess if I had like an honorable mention to throw for one other game that wouldn't really be in my, style at this point, would be NHL Hits 2002. That game, like hockey game, a lot of fun, but the best part about it was if you threw a really good check, you could actually get into a fight, and the fighting system in that game was just insane.
Okay. I remember, oh man, it was Wayne Gretzky, I think, for the N64. I used to play that one with my little brother, and we would check each other just to get into the fights because the fights were so much fun, Yeah.
Now, duking it out with a cousin or a family member in a game like that, you could never actually beat them at wrestling because they were just a little bit older. But you could kick their ass in NHL Hits 2002.
I remember years ago, I got the one chance to use the D-Link on a Game Boy. And I played multiplayer Tetris with somebody that I met at I forget where this was, but I got to play. I was like 11 years old. And I got to play multiplayer Tetris for the first and only time in my life.
I remember that. I'm pretty sure I did that too. Though granted, that would have been the brick Game Boy.
That was the great brick.
Oh yeah,
which I still have, by the way.
Oh gosh,
somewhere I have mine.
Wait, like functioning?
It was functioning. I have to. I opened it up. I need to do a little WD-40 on the contacts for the battery. And batteries. I think it should be all right. I don't think it's dead. It's still functioning.
That's fantastic. I do not have a single working Game Boy.
Actually, what's funny about that is last week I was in New York, and I stopped at the Nintendo store up there because I was, hell, I'm going to New York. I'm going to the Nintendo store. I've got to see what it's like. And they have on display like a bunch of like their old, Nintendo, Super Nintendo games and whatnot. And then they have a section where they have like all of their consoles, like from their very first one up to, the Switch. And off to the side of that, they've got like their handheld consoles, and like the first one up into, the 3DS that they have now. But they have on display a brick Game Boy that was on, apparently, I guess it was on a soldier that was in Afghanistan, maybe? I'd be lying if I said I knew where he was, but nonetheless, he was, I think they ran over an IED, and nonetheless, like, the Game Boy, like the soldier lived and whatnot. And the Game Boy was, if you look at it, it's absolutely destroyed and like half melted and everything. But the thing still works. It still works.
Suck at Game Gear.
Oh my god. Oh god. All right. Listen, if we're gonna, before I get too off topic,
we'll save that for another episode.
You know what? I mean, I think we've got a little bit of time here, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, I was thinking about let's talk about some of our. What was our first gaming console? Actually, I think that'd be a good something to discuss.
Ooh. All right. I guess for me, I'd have to say that I can remember would be the NES. I remember it was myself and my older sister. Like, and I keep in mind, I only know this because she's told me this plenty of times, and so did my parents. But apparently, like, we really wanted to get an NES, so like we went up to our parents, her and myself, and like we begged them and did like this weird like dance song thing to try to convince them to get us this, an NES. And surprisingly, it worked. And we ended up getting like the base one that came with, what was it, Mario Brothers / Duck Hunt and the controller and the guns, so that that's the first one that I can honestly recall, which, to be fair, I mean, it's going to be a lot of people is going to be saying the same thing too.
I mean, surprisingly, I think my story's even a little bit similar, that like me and my sister did some like weird little dance thing to try and convince our parents to get us one, and it worked. And instantly, I mean, like, I'm not sure if my dad played that more than I did or not, but I think he might have, because Duck Hunter was his jam for a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think that was my dad's too for a while.
Now, the kind of buck the trend here, my very first one was actually my father's Atari 400 system. It's basically like, it's an Atari that has a membrane keyboard on the front, so you could do like there was a cartridge for BASIC, so you can actually program a game if you wanted. But shortly after that, we were at a flea market, and this old lady was selling one of those big bank boxes that you tie cords at the end to kind of keep it closed. We got the whole thing for $1, the entire Atari 2600 library,
Wow.
including ET. I went through the library of it. Look, I had like 2 or 3. I had like 4 or 5 Joy-Cons. I had a numeric keypad for certain games. I had the paddles for like Breakout. And I think there was a couple other things I don't remember. Oh, I think it was there was an adapter to play cassette, like audio cassette games that were on the audio cassettes. Which at 5-6 years old, I was completely clueless. How do you do that? But that I had, and I played for quite a long time. I have to, and then of course, then I got like a Nintendo a year or two later. My father finally got one. But yeah, it was the Atari 400 and the Atari 2600. That was my first intro to games.
Wow, actually, I wouldn't have expected that one, because there's not even a lot of people that I know that would have said the same thing. Hell, I don't even remember the last time I saw an Atari 2600.
Yeah, I don't know. All I remember is that it was always fun trying to connect it, because it uses the pitchforks of death.
Oh, I remember. Okay,
the UHF connections.
Yes, I actually remember that.
My TV did have, and if I wanted to use the one Atari or the other, I had to go back there and swap them out.
Yep.
So that was fun. And if I want to watch actual television, I have to swap out for the cable to UHF converter and put that in there too.
Wow, that's
back in my day,
showing your age there.
Just a little bit. As far as I knew, there was just Ataris.
Now there was a few different ones. I think
there was a few. There was an Atari that went up against the Nintendo. I think it was the 5200, which I unfortunately bombed because it had a really terrible controller.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, I know there was something, but I don't remember which one it was.
I'm pretty sure it's the 5200. I do know that the 2600 had the very first wireless controller. The problem was, but the problem is that it uses standard RF. I think it's standard radio signals that were so strong it would open and close garage doors from several houses down. That's how bad it was. So it wasn't really mass produced. But they had. You could say the Atari had the first wireless controller before. I guess Sony was doing that, right? Who did the first wireless?
Oh hell! Now you're trying to make me think here. You know what? For sake of conversation, let's just say it was Sony because I don't recall.
Probably did it at the same time, maybe.
I don't know.
I'm sure there was third-party adapters. I'm sure there's one for Nintendo that was Super Nintendo that had wireless for the original. How many pins was that? 6-7 pin Super Nintendo controller.
Maybe. To be fair, back in the day when I had my SNES and all that, like, as long as that turned on and worked, like I didn't need anything else.
Yeah, and that controller cord was so long, you didn't need the.
Oh my god, yeah.
So.
Which is funny because actually I fired up my SNES Mini earlier today, and like I was rehashing some childhood memories again with that thing, playing like Contra and then like Super Mario World and whatnot. God, I love those games.
Yeah, I fired that up today, and I'm like, which game do I want to play? And I kept flipping through. There should be like a random button. Just in case you can't decide, because it's not like it's not like when I look at my shelf and I still see my 20-some Super Nintendo cartridges, and I had to think, I actually had to get off my butt, take a cartridge, take it to the console, insert it into the console, and push the power button, and then I set my butt back down on the couch and played a game, and that was it. If I want to change the games, I got to go back and do the whole process again.
Yeah, which is funny.
Do you feel like that actually like made you dedicate yourself to games a little bit longer? Like maybe you didn't, want to give up on a certain level because you actually had to go switch the cartridge?
Well, it did for Jurassic Park on Super Nintendo.
I hate you. Hold on, there's a little side story with that one, Eric. Because Jurassic Park for the Super Nintendo, I used to, I used to own it like way back in the day, and I was never able to beat that game. Like, it was just, I don't understand why. For like at that time, it was just so stupid hard.
Well, there's no save feature on it, which hurts a lot.
I mean, yeah, but there were a lot of games that didn't have save features back then, though, either. But I remember just having like an incredibly hard time to like the point where like I'm in the living room playing it, and like I'm sitting on the floor on the TV, and I've got my mom on one couch, my dad in his chair, and the rest of my family sitting there watching, like, oh, go do this or go do that, trying to help so that like I don't die again to have to start all this over.
That game you have to dedicate about 4 hours before you can actually say you can finish it, because it takes a lot of time. That's a Saturday game.
Isn't that just like a lot of fetching? Like, go get this, go get that.
It's an adventure questing game, you could say. You complete an objective, and you're given another objective, and you got to go to this other side of the map.
Because I remember there was something with like raptor eggs. That
was the problem, and that also got me until there was a nice issue of Nintendo Power that had the question, "Where's the last raptor egg?" And the question really referred to the one egg that's actually hidden off screen. You actually have to find a hidden path in one corner of the map, and there is the egg, and that's usually the one everyone misses. And there are people who have completed every objective, but they can't get that last egg, and so they can't finish the game. And of course, you finish the game, and the ending's complete garbage, because it doesn't. After 4 hours, you expected more than just to say, "Congratulations, you survived Jurassic Park." And what's even worse is that they had the galls. Ocean had the galls to give you a score marker, so you actually put in the 3-digit name, and there's a score sheet to try to beat your next score. I'm like, I'm not spending another 4 hours playing this game. I beat it. I'm going home.
I'm
going to
done,
bed.
sir.
I'm dead. Take my toys and go home. I am done. But yeah, me and Ron have this kind of little thing. But I could tell you, Eric, you put a cartridge in, it feels a lot different than looking through your Steam library or with the new mini classics or the virtual consoles and stuff like that. Just switch, go into one game to another on a whim. I have to say, it kind of cheapened games. Like I felt that like when I had my first Steam summer sale, and all of a sudden I have all these games, and I'm like, I'm not gonna have time to play these. Really? I mean,
at some point, yeah, right. Yeah. Like,
I mean, there was a time where you let's face it, we all had fathers took us to Toys R Us, and there's Mega Man X for $80. We want that, right? And,
of course,
you're right, and that made the game all the more special. And so you dedicate yourself to that game, not the $20 R-Type or whatever that's in the discount bin. No, the Mega Man X for $80. That's the one the old man got you. That's the one you're going to spend time on because he bought it for you, and he made it really clear that $80 is a bit more than $20.
Right.
Not only did it have sentimental value, it had, if you don't finish this, I'm whooping your ass.
Well, we just won't go to Disney World or something like that, I guess. If I ever get to go to Disney World, or something like that. But no, you spend the time, and I felt having to actually put the cartridge in made, okay, I'm sitting playing this game. And right. I think that's kind of lost when you can just easily swipe through games and just load up a ROM image, a save state, and just start where you really shouldn't be starting because you're supposed to wait to the save spot.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm trying not to do that with the Super Nintendo Classic. I'm trying to get to, I'm playing Donkey Kong Country. I'm waiting to get the Candy Kong before I can put the game down.
I mean, I get what you're saying there, because yes, it did add like a little bit more. What's the word I want to use here to it? Like thinking back on it, it adds a lot more nostalgia to like playing those games. Right. But nowadays, when you have a market that gets as, I don't want to say gets as flooded as what it does, but there's a lot of stuff that comes out on every platform, including PC, on a weekly basis here.
Right.
I mean, having that digital, where you can, scroll through your library and say, okay, you know what, let's load up this ROM or let's load up this file and play this game is a lot more space friendly than having a room full of cartridges and even CDs and things like that.
But would you want that room full of CDs and cartridges?
I mean, me, yes. Yes, 100%. But I'm fairly certain that my wife would not. When I sit there and try to explain to her how, hey, I'm going to take this whole room for just my, my gaming stuff. I mean, I put it all in there, and then I realized, shoot, I don't have enough room. Like, I think I went a little too crazy on the amount of stuff that I have.
3 words for you there, Ron. Walk-in closet.
No, I think he just made the ultimate argument for the man cave, right? Like,
right. Oh, right. Yeah, that's the man cave.
Yeah. Yeah. Touche. I'll give you guys that one.
Yep.
But still, I mean, I get what you're saying though, but in today's world where having not always having as much room as what right. you actually, you know what, and maybe not even just room, but just think about it. I mean, you're running around, let's take, I'll take my Switch or, a handheld, 3DS, or those like 4 people who still own a Vita. They can, you can download these ROMs or games on those and play them while you're out and on the go, which is kind of nice. It is super convenient.
Oh yeah.
If you're on, like I said, last week I went to New York, I'm on the bus, I can sit there and I can fire up, if I want to play Lunar, I can fire up, Lunar Silver Star on my Vita, or if I want to play Mario Kart, hey, I've got it on my Switch, which just happens to be able, I can take that with me, and it is really convenient on that end.
Oh, when it comes to portability, I don't disagree with you there. I mean, as nice as the Game Boy was, it was kind of a, inconvenient to slug around, more than maybe 3 cartridges.
Especially if you had all those ridiculous attachments that came out for the handheld or for the Game Boy when it launched.
Oh yeah, like screen magnifiers and stuff.
Do you remember there was a Game Boy? It was like a shell for a Game Boy that you would stick your Game Boy inside, and it looked like a super huge Game Boy that had like the screen magnifier, and like the A and B buttons were like the size of the palm of your hand, and like there was a giant joystick on it and whatnot.
Did it give you like stereo sound as well?
It might have.
Yeah,
I'm going through memory on this one, so I don't.
I think it also took its own batteries too.
It might have.
So that was the best, right? If you go on actual long trips, like you always had to make sure you had like 4 extra batteries in your pocket just in case.
4 extra batteries if you had the Game Boy. If you had a Game Gear, you had to have like a whole backpack of batteries, because you wouldn't make it an hour without having to change out 3 times.
When you had a Game Gear, you fell in love with the discount battery brands. Easy.
Yeah.
There's no Duracell in your family. It is like Everlast for life. It is the CVS branded batteries for life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I always remember the
AC adapter.
Yes.
What adapter?
The AC adapter?
Yeah.
So you can just plug it right in the wall.
Oh, yep.
Yep.
I actually remember back when... I want to say it was... When did we have that big blizzard? Like way...
93.
93?
93.
All right, so I remember back when we had the blizzard of 93, which again shows you my age. I remember I borrowed a friend's Game Gear. I don't know how I got them to let me use it, but I borrowed it. And oh my God, I think my parents probably spent at least $40 in a less than a week's time frame for batteries for my brother and I, so we could sit and play that thing.
Oh, now you see why the Game Boy was successful.
Well, yes, but I'm pretty sure it was more than just, the power issues that the Game Gear had back in the day.
It was the power of the parents' wallet.
That definitely played a role in it. Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Eric. You sound like you were gonna say something there. I cut you off, I think.
No, you're fine. I was gonna say I always remember using they sold the little plug-in lights, right? That you would plug into the Game Boy and it would power the light to light up the screen. And I'd after my bedtime, I'd be in my room, like hiding with my little light, playing my Game Boy.
Playing Pokemon Blue.
Heck yes.
I remember that one.
Yellow was also a favorite.
I liked Yellow just because it was the closest to the show back then. But I mean, Blue was always, for some reason, just Blue was always the one that I enjoyed the most.
I can't. No, go ahead.
I was just kicking it back with Wario Land and Metroid 2.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I remember those.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And now come to think of it, that was what? Yeah, that was the second one for handheld. And I think was that the first time they introduced Wario too? I think so.
Yeah, well, he was a villain in Mario Land 2. And then they ended up making him a playable character in Wario Land, which I thought was so unique, and I had to get the game, of course. And the game plan was actually really nice. And I remember going on my way to get all the treasure pieces to max out the number of coins you essentially have. It was like straight 9s. And I still had like more treasures to go. So I really kicked it with that game. And Metroid 2, I always thought was like the underdog, the unsung hero. I enjoy the game. It has its flaws, but I always see through them. The limitations of the Game Boy and what they were trying to do.
I don't know if I ever remembered. I'm sorry. Let me try this in English. I don't think I ever played that one. Actually, I don't think I played many of them on handhelds or any. Actually, no, on the original Game Boy, no, I never played any of them. I didn't play any Metroid until like Game Boy Advance on handheld.
Super Metroid?
No, I'm sorry. Let me reiterate this. I never played any of the handheld Metroids
All right.
until the Game Boy Advance. Because I think that was like the Fusion series and whatnot. Like those I played.
I didn't have an Advance.
None of the prior ones. Oh, you were missing out. Those were awesome back in the day.
I just never got around to getting an Advance. To be honest, I still just had my Game Boy, and I was still happy with what games I had for it.
Well, fair enough.
I know I was still really into Saturday morning cartoons when the Game Boy Advance came out. There was actually a show called Metabots that I watched that they came out with like, it was a fighting show, so they came out with a fighting game for it, and I just had to have it, and that's why I begged my parents. I think it was a birthday present, but I enjoyed it mostly just because they had the addition of paddles, and it kind of opened up what you could do control-wise.
Okay. Wow, going back to Saturday morning cartoons for all that, dude. I remember watching like the Captain N, and like the Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching that show. Yes, yep. I remember watching that show to look for like hints and tricks for Super Mario World for the SNES.
Yeah. In fact, I got really hardcore with Mario 3, which is for me my favorite. I have to say my favorite Mario platform game. When they had the Mario 3 cartoon. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed the cartoon a lot because they stuck to the game style, as opposed to the Mario Super Show, which was just crazy nuts. Whereas, like in Mario 3, I expected him to get the leaf to be the Raccoon Mario. I expected him to get the frog suit to swim, and the airships and all that. So they stuck to that universe, and I always liked that. Same with Mario World. They kind of stuck to that universe. And as a child, I'm like, okay, it has to fit the game. The cartoon has to fit the game because I enjoy the game a lot. So.
Wow, the fond memories there on that one.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I'm going to have to show my age a little bit and say that I never saw those shows.
Oh, you were missing out.
Dude,
that was quality entertainment back in the day.
It sounds like I was. I'm a little disappointed. I might have to go back and look these up.
Well, the Mario Super Show, I think I think is still on Netflix, and you can watch that on there. But for Mario 3, okay. I think you're going to have to go around and look for the DVD.
Yeah,
I have not seen Mario World out at all.
Sounds like a Amazon search adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to go about it. And I'm not gonna lie, like when you go back to like when you sit down now and watch those shows from back then, like it is so corny.
The Zelda show.
But oh my god, you realize there was only actually like 12 episodes to Zelda, right?
It was like a Friday only show. Yeah.
Yeah, but hold on. I'm sorry. I got off topic there on that. When you go back, though, and you watch those shows like now, like they're so corny and like you get what they were going after on it. But, oh, man, at times it's a little painful to watch. It's just like, why did they think this was a good idea?
But it was when you were a kid, right? Like
when I was a kid, that was the best.
You loved it. Like if you go back and watch anything, like I know for me, like Power Rangers, I went back and watched the original Power Rangers show a little bit ago, just a couple episodes, and it's so just like basic morals, and the dialogue is just so terrible. Like, but at the time, it was just so much fun for you.
Yeah.
Here's a good question. I know Ron is, but I assume Eric also enjoyed Ninja Turtles back in the day as well, right?
Of course.
What was your feeling when you first got to play the original Nintendo Ninja Turtle game on the Nintendo system?
Oh, I'm not gonna lie. I never owned that game, but I had relatives in Maine that we would go visit twice a year, and my older cousin Nathan had that game, and it was all I wanted to do while I was there. Like, I think I actually offended my aunts and uncles a little bit because I did not want to spend any time with them. I only wanted to play Ninja Turtles.
Did you ever get past the water level?
Probably not, because there were a lot of people that had an issue with that one.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, me included.
I remember my brother renting that game for us. And, like, I remember sitting down and playing it, and, like, the first time seeing it, like, just utter joy. Like, just across, like, everything. I was just so excited and so happy. Like, I used to love the Ninja Turtles, and, like, they were my favorite cartoon show and toys, and there was a movie, and then, oh, there's a game. And I remember I played the living hell out of it.
Concert.
Yeah, oh, God. Yeah, there was that thing, too.
I have the video for that.
That is a challenge to sit and watch that one, let me tell you. But nonetheless, I did complete the water level, but never actually beat that game.
It is a tough game, and even the arcade game for the Nintendo was pretty rough, especially since they added additional levels to the original arcade version.
Yes,
I remember ate a lot of quarters for me.
A lot of quarters in that one.
That and the Simpsons and the X-Men arcade machines just bled my father dry.
Yes. Every allowance was going to that Simpsons game every time.
I got to Mr. Burns. Right. I did get to Mr. Burns. It cost me $20 worth of quarters, and I didn't get to him. I didn't beat him. I died, and my father was like, "Yeah, no more." I'm like, "Oh,
but Dad, I'm like right there." So I remember the Simpsons game, and I definitely remember the X-Men game. And what's funny is that there was a place, and I don't know if they're still in business or whatnot. There's like a video game store, like not a GameStop or anything like that. That wasn't too far from where I live now. And in the back, they had like their own little arcade, and inside there, they had the arcade of the X-Men, or the arcade machine for X-Men. And like when I went there, I saw it and I was just like, "Oh my God!" Like I haven't seen this thing in forever. And I'm like looking for quarters, and the guy comes around the corner and he's laughing. He's like, "Dude, it doesn't work yet. So hold up. Once it's working, you can come back and play it." Like I was so heartbroken because I wanted to just relive a couple of memories there on that one.
No, that's a shame. I think that the bowling alley that had the Simpsons game that I used to go to, it's actually still there. But real quick, I'm honestly curious, what were your favorite characters to play, let's say in Simpsons and X-Men?
Okay, so X-Men, Nightcrawler.
Yes.
Loved Nightcrawler. If I couldn't get to him, I guess I would always go with Wolverine at that point, just because, I mean, it's Wolverine. Right. Simpsons, if memory serves me correct, I picked Bart, because didn't he run around as Bartman? And he like would swing his skateboard or something at people. I think that, yes, if that's the case, then that is who I remember. Because I remember my sister would play Marge, and Marge would hit people with her vacuum.
Yeah.
Those are the only two characters I remember.
Yep.
For the X-Men, I guess for me it was whoever, like, remember back in the day, the spot you picked is the character you got. And for me, it was just get in there and play it. So I never had one particular character for X-Men. I guess you could say Cyclops I really liked back in the day. But for the Simpsons, I always try to get Homer, because I knew he, at least, I don't know if it's true, but this is pre-internet Kid Street rumors. He had like extra damage to the bowling ball enemy. One of the bowling ball boss you had.
Yeah.
And so that always stuck with me. And so I always play Homer. I didn't play, I played Bart a little bit, but I usually always played Homer. In fact, when I got to Mr. Burns, it's because I went through Homer all the way through. That's the character I was playing. That was fun. Now, years later, I got to play it on the emulation, and I couldn't believe how short those games were. But then I realized how often I'm hitting that button to refill my quarters and my lives, and like, oh man. But I was.
Those.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say they were challenging, right? Like that was kind of the point. They wanted to suck up as many quarters as they could get out of you. So they did not make those games easy.
No. And you have to admit, like back in the day, I think the king of those arcade machines was Konami. one of my favorite ones. One of my favorite arcade games from back in the day was actually the Aliens arcade game, which had nothing to do really. It was very loosely based on the movie, but they really stretched that license and created some really interesting bosses for that game. That was a little fun to play.
Gotcha.
I made my quarters.
I think the one I probably sunk the most quarters into was it House of the Dead, right? Or
oh yeah, definitely House of the Dead ate a bunch of my quarters.
Yeah, I think 4 was the title that was actually the most fun. And again, I think somebody, I don't remember who, but I ended up playing those games on like PC, or I even want to say, no, I'm probably going to say PC. And again, short, but some of those bosses were so hard. I remember there was the one where you had like the big body, and then there was the little guy on his shoulder that flew around that you actually had to shoot in the air to do any damage to him. And I'm pretty sure there were times where I sunk $10 in and did not beat that boss.
Yeah, that's arcade machines.
Yeah, that's how they'd get you. They'd pump it up to the hardest difficulty and just let you give them all your money.
How about those gun games, like the Terminator game or the game?
I always had fun with
Jurassic
those.
Park, I think, had one too, where it was which was a gun.
They do. You would sit into it almost. You'd get in like this little booth, which was made to look like if you were getting into the Jeeps from the movie. And it would have a giant TV on the screen, like once you sat in it and had the guns that you could shoot at. Yeah, I remember that. I played it a few times.
Those were
Dude,
fun.
if there was one, though.
Were worth the quarters.
If there was one, though, it was the Star Wars one.
Yes.
Where it had like the joystick on there. Mm-hmm. And you had the spots where you'd fly like the Millennium Falcon, or you'd have like the lightsaber battle with Darth Vader.
Yeah. I would always do the Empire Strikes Back because I just want to do the Battle of Hoth. That was my thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like any of those games where they had, actually, to be fair, almost every Star Wars game I played, I enjoyed in one way, shape, or form. I
remember playing the original vector graphic Star Wars game, which was the Death Star Trench Run. That is going back, and I had tons of fun with that. And they had, so the only, back in the day, it was the only game I knew that had actual voice dialogue to it too.
Okay.
So you are Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is talking to R2-D2 as you're flying through it, and it was fun. It was all vector graphics too. There was no texture, it was all wireframe.
Oh wow! Okay.
Wow.
Old school.
That's going back.
Yep.
That's going way back.
Yep. Back in my day.
Well, I think that's about wrapping it up here.
Yeah.
I think we've given kind of a good idea on at least some of the knowledge and experience that we have here. Definitely join us on our next episode. That one we'll actually have some topics that we're going to talk about. Maybe even in the future do some reviews, thoughts on, news going on in the whole gaming world. Definitely, leave some remarks if you got anything you want us to talk about or anything like that, as well as always, hit the follow button, hit the like, the thumbs up, whatever you do. Let's get the name out there. Let's get our voices heard in on this one. And definitely, as always, I am Ron, followed with Mike and Eric, who is or is not with us. Oh, no, there he is. Okay.
Sorry.
As always, it's going to be the three of us here. Definitely, join us on the next time. See you guys around.
Adios.
Bye.